people in Georgia that have gotten at least one dose of this vaccine.
Others complain that state officials have not done enough to protect Georgia's Latino communities. Several people showed up to protest the state's response efforts at this morning's event.
A new vaccination site has opened up in Fulton County. The Georgia International Convention Center in College Park will serve residents of South Fulton and those nearby. It's right across from the airport. Officials say the GICC will replace the Aviation Community Cultural Center as a vaccination site. Since it's much larger, it will allow for expanded vaccination services as supply of the shots increases in the coming months. Wherever you live across North Georgia, we have information about how to get the coronavirus vaccine in your area on our website. Just go to fox5atlanta.com.
Worse. I see some that sit in the lunchroom and they're not able to even buy lunch. It makes my heart hurt.
Across the country, workers like Cindy are closely watching the national debate to raise the minimum wage over 4 years to $15 an hour, more than double the current minimum of $7.25. The nonpartisan Congressional Budget Office says that plan would bring nearly 1 million people out of poverty, though it would also cost about 1.5 million workers their jobs.
Increasing minimum wage has the possibility to destroy my business.
Nick Thomas says he started cutting grass in his neighborhood when he was 8 years old. He eventually grew that into a landscaping company in Kansas that has about 24 workers. Nick says he pays a starting wage of $12 an hour, and then he raises that amount with workers' experience and expertise. Nick says a $15 minimum wage would lift pay for all his workers, cutting his bottom line by at least a quarter. He says that means he'll have to raise prices and potentially reduce his workforce. The Washington, D.C. metropolitan area has one of the more expensive costs of living in the United States. That's where Carrie Kelly started her small business a decade ago. At her Northern Virginia store, Carrie says she has anywhere from 4 to 7 employees, depending on the time of year. Even though Virginia's minimum wage is $7.25, Carrie says she decided to pay her workers at least $15 an hour.
My knee-jerk reaction was, oh my gosh, we can't afford that. But I said that without actually doing the calculations on my balance sheet.
She argues paying workers more means more money in the local economy.
I don't only feel like I'm investing in my workforce, I feel like I'm investing in my community.
The fate of a national minimum wage increase is up to Congress, and there are significant hurdles.
The worst of the winter weather, though, stayed away from Georgia. The rain we saw today is now gone, but we're still expecting to feel the effects of the storm through the early morning hours. Sub-freezing temperatures are expected overnight.
And that could cause the threat of icy conditions to last into the morning commute. Let's bring in Fox 5 Storm Team Chief Meteorologist David Chanley. David, you've been tracking this storm all day long.
Yeah, the concern, Russ and Courtney, is what we call a flash freeze. We're going to find temperatures in the next few hours or so just plummet and go right down well into the 20s, and any residual moisture that's been out there due to
Mississippi. They turned us around because of the storm. When we got back to Atlanta, they got us a motel, they said, until they opened up the highways.
He's just one of about 20 Greyhound passengers who found themselves at this Cobb County motel. But he and others say due to some miscommunication, they've been told the motel will not be able to accommodate them.
We spent money to be on the Greyhound. If we're displaced because of an act of God, that's not our fault.
We reached out to Greyhound to learn more but didn't hear back. But according to their website, close to 200 routes are temporarily stopped because of the potentially dangerous weather conditions. These include routes to and from cities all across the country. One passenger says she tried to figure out a route that would allow her to keep traveling, but she didn't have any luck, leaving her and others with no choice but to simply wait out the storm.
They said that all the routes were blocked, that if I went to South Carolina, I could only go so far, I'd be displaced there too. So there's a lot of people that did go that route, and they're displaced the same way we are.
Greyhound is keeping an update.
50 million people under winter weather advisories.
The severity of the cold weather is unprecedented in Texas history.
Folks in Texas seeing some of the coldest temperatures in their lifetime. Millions are without power across the Lone Star State as officials implement rolling blackouts to ensure the power grid can keep up, leaving people without electricity as the mercury plummets. Those power concerns echoed across the region.
We are asking our customers, if possible, to conserve energy by lowering their thermostats for the next several days.
Thousands in Oklahoma also without power as bitter cold temperatures in parts of the state reached the lowest they've been in 116 years. Meanwhile, officials are warning about dangerous travel conditions. The storm is to blame for countless accidents on icy roads and thousands of delays and cancellations at airports across the U.S. This historic winter system started over the weekend in the Pacific Northwest, dumping snow and dangerous ice. It's now moving east, taking aim at the Ohio Valley and the Northeast by Tuesday. And relief is not in sight just yet. There is another winter storm behind this one that's expected to bring even more snow and ice to the region on Wednesday. That's the latest from downtown Dallas. Casey Stiegel, Fox News.
Everybody complains about the mail-in ballot. Well, you don't want to have to show an ID. They did the application. You don't want to show an ID to mail it in. Well, do away with the mail-in ballots. And that solves the whole problem. Don't need them no how. It's just an easy way to cheat.
Several Republican-sponsored bills introduced on the heels of President Joe Biden's narrow win in Georgia.
11 Alive's Doug Richards now looking at what the measure would do and why there is opposition already.
The bill's sponsor is a Republican state senator from North Georgia whose district went overwhelmingly for Donald Trump in the 2020 election.
We have totally lost confidence.
Senator Steve Gooch was on one of the committees impaneled to find widespread election fraud in Georgia without much to show for it. But Gooch and other Senate Republicans want to allow more investigations. Their bill would allow the state attorney general to impanel statewide grand juries to investigate election fraud anywhere in Georgia. The grand juries would have subpoena power and could take sworn testimony, giving them teeth. When asked if election fraud allegations aren't getting sufficient attention, here's what Gooch said.
You could say that, depending on who you ask. We've had comments in the past years, not just recently, but I think that's something that we need to take a serious look at.
Although counties can impanel grand juries to investigate crimes, no power exists yet for statewide grand juries. This bill would allow them only to investigate election crimes. Democrats say the bill is based on a false premise.
There's been no evidence of fraud at all, and I think that's something that's key. And so what you have now is basically just a reaction, we think a reaction towards actually what happened in the election. And whenever you have a reactionary bill dealing with voting, it becomes very problematic.
And one of the problems is, if you have, say, a situation in Fulton County, DeKalb County, could you have a jury all from Tattnall County to swoop in?
Or into rural counties like Lumpkin. Anywhere a crime is committed, we should make sure that the criminals are brought to court and tried and held accountable for their actions.
The statewide grand jury bill is a constitutional amendment, which means it would need to pass with 2/3 majorities here at the Capitol and then with a majority of voters in an election statewide. Here at the Capitol, they call that a heavy lift.
More political news. Fulton County.
We're going to have a heat wave.
My psoriasis.
It'll be 50 degrees tomorrow.
Cosentix can help you.
All you libertarians that sign them petitions and turn them over to John Ossoff and those other rookies in the Senate, they don't know the rules. It has to be related to the bill. It ain't happening.
There. Back here at home, we turn to breaking news. A man is dead and a shooter is on the run in South Fulton.
Right now, police are roping off the crime scene at a gas station where a man was shot and killed. Fox 5's Denise Dillon is live at the Chevron on Old National Highway with the latest information. Denise.
Yeah, the shooting happened just outside the Chevron gas station here. As you said, we're right on Old National Highway. You can see that yellow police tape encircles the entire parking lot here. There are a number of police cars as detectives meticulously search for evidence. Now, please tell me that there was a shooting at 6:45 this evening. A 23-year-old man was hit in the chest and collapsed and died right by one of the gas pumps. Police have not said what led up to the shooting. We do know that the gunman has not been arrested. Police have not said, though, who they are looking for. Again, a 23-year-old man shot and killed right outside this Chevron gas station. Reporting live from the city of South Fulton, Denise Dillon, Fox 5 News.
Denise, thank you. Developing tonight, House Republicans.
The police chief at the time had requested National Guard help on January 4th. He says it was denied by Pelosi and the sergeant-at-arms due to a concern about, quote, optics.
Speaker Pelosi can't push the buck to somebody else because we're House members. She has some responsibility to tell us what went wrong.
Pelosi aides insist there was no intelligence that predicted violence that day. Just yesterday, she announced an independent investigation into the deadly riots that unfolded. Meantime, Representative Benny Thompson filed a
virus relief package with a visit to Milwaukee.
We can't spend too much. Now's the time we should be spending. Now's the time to go big.
The president won Wisconsin by less than 1% in November. Now he's there to pressure Republicans to support his bill.
For 4 years, all that's been in the news is Trump. The next 4 years, I want to make sure all the news is the American people.
The Biden administration also wants more money for vaccine production and distribution. The White House is increasing the number of vaccine doses going to states to 13.5 million per week.
In the Georgia Constitution, 25 senators have signed on to SR 100, which calls for setting up statewide grand juries to investigate election law violations. The Republicans submitted the proposed amendment one day after news came out about Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis's investigation of calls former President Trump and Senator Lindsey Graham made to Georgia officials after the election. In a letter, Willis said she could impanel a grand jury looking into election fraud, conspiracy, racketeering, violation of oath of office, and threats of violence.
I hate bullies. I love what I do. I want to be a part of keeping our community safe.
If approved, the amendment would strip her of the power to conduct election and voting law grand juries, giving it to the Attorney General, who would then impanel jurors from all over the state. A Georgia State law professor blasted the proposal in a tweet, calling it, quote, an attack on black political power. He went on to say jurors looking into misconduct in Fulton County should look like members of the community.
It's been rough, real rough. I don't want what happened to Jelani to happen to anybody else.
She started this petition to get the city to ban the selling of water on street corners. The municipal enterprise is one of the alternatives city leaders are looking at to get the young men.
Nice, bright, sunny day. And it just now broke 30 degrees. It's 24 this morning. I hope it's a decent day tomorrow. I get to go and get my vaccination, first shot. I'm shocked I was able to get an appointment. It's ridiculous. And your hot water heater vapor coming out of there.
Last year, other firms making vaccines were also targeted by North Korea, including Johnson & Johnson and AstraZeneca.
And North Korea has very capable cyber attack capabilities.
The Hermit Kingdom needs as much help as it can get when it comes to COVID. While Pyongyang claims to have no cases, experts dispute that. What is confirmed is the country has been shut tight to all foreigners and crucially foreign goods, like food and medicine, for a year now. A body blow to an already weakened state. Kim Jong-un pledging recently to take necessary steps to rebuild the nation's destitute economy. There are unconfirmed reports Pyongyang is testing its own vaccine based on already hacked data. What is known, though, is the country will receive some 2 million injections in the coming months from an international vaccine sharing organization. In a country of 26 million, though, and a bad health system, there are reports those will just go to the elite. As North Korea continues to flex its military muscle, as usual, its citizens could have to pay the price.
North Korea has been amazing in muddling through long after rumors of their death have been given.
Experts say that even with more vaccines, North Korea might not be able to reopen until 2022. At the very least, that could give the new Biden administration a little bit more time to figure out what to do about this problem country. In London, Greg Falcon, Fox News.
In South Africa, health officials are now using the still unapproved COVID-19 vaccine developed by Johnson & Johnson. It's the first time the Johnson & Johnson vaccine is being used outside of a major clinical trial as part of a research study targeted up to 500,000 people, healthcare workers in particular. Johnson & Johnson applied for emergency use authorization from the FDA earlier this month. It's expected to get the green light by the end of the month.
Good. Now, there still remains about 10,000 megawatts that is off the grid.
As many as 4 million households lost power in Texas after a massive failure in the state's power grid, including problems with wind turbines, nuclear power, and natural gas systems that weren't winterized. With a huge demand for heat and a dwindling energy supply, grid officials instituted rolling blackouts.
We risked that catastrophic blackout at 1 in the morning on Monday.
The governor of Texas pointed to failures of the wind and solar systems, even attacking a proposed federal Green New Deal that would focus on renewable energy.
Well, this shows how the Green New Deal would be a deadly deal for the United States of America.
Some Democrats have a very different take on the Green New Deal and who's to blame for the grid failure in Texas.
Numerous reports have actually shown the contrary, that it was failures in coal and natural gas that contributed to the state's power shortages.
While Texas officials are looking at state infrastructure problems, President Biden met with union leaders to talk about overhauling the infrastructure of the entire country with a $2 trillion investment. In Washington, Caroline Shively, Fox 5 News Edge.
Morning, everybody. You know, that saying there, I'd rather be dead than red in the head. Well, I'm changing it. I'd rather be dead than dumb in the head. Because that red-headed press secretary of Joe Biden's trying to say just the opposite of what the boots on the ground in Texas are saying about the electrical grid. Oh, trying to say that it was natural gas and coal that failed. It was just the opposite. It was the renewable energy system in the system that failed. And I saw videos on the news of water cascading off of balconies, ceiling fan in a hallway, water come down through the ceiling, just icicles hanging off of it. And icicles hanging in a car wash. Texas has not designed their electrical grid to handle that kind of weather. It's just not. Solar panel covered with snow doesn't work. Windmill that's frozen up with ice doesn't work. Come on, people. You know, airplanes' wings ice up. You got to turn heaters on in the wing for get down to a lower altitude, so you don't have all the extra weight of the ice on their wings. Ice is will do things to stuff that it normally wouldn't do. This is crazy. Fire extinguishers like that thing up above my head right there. You see it? There's that damn thing. There it is. Those water pipes broke. The water pipes going to the fire extinguishers failed. They burst. No heat. Water, people's homes, their water pipes. Bathroom sink water running, and it froze coming out of the faucet. Texas is not. Texas's system infrastructure is not designed to handle extremely cold weather. And it was not the natural gas and coal that failed. It was the renewable energy that failed in the system. AOC, you saw it with AOC. Renewable energy is the answer. These idiots.
Like the only thing that's somehow adequate to remedy the injury.
A majority of the Democrats' presidential candidates campaigned to pack the court. Constitutional expert and author of Supreme Disorder, Ilya Shapiro, labels their real motive as taking control of the court.
Court packing has come to mean adding seats to the Supreme Court for partisan reasons, for ideological gain.
To issue opinions that are pleasing to the policy and political agendas of the people who will have packed the court.
The Heritage Foundation's John Malcolm says that would lead to real damage.
Once you start down that road, you have completely eviscerated the independence of the judiciary, and that is a very dangerous development.
Professor Braver also sees the potential harm.
Its distinct danger is that it unleashes a tit-for-tat downward spiral of packing. I pack, you pack, I pack, you pack, ballooning the court's size so large that its legitimacy pops.
Judicial independence does get destroyed. This may be welcomed by some people on both right and left who think, well, the real problem with the judiciary is they strike down too many laws and regulations. So if we intimidate the judiciary into submission, then the world will be a better place.
But all this could turn the much respected Supreme Court into just another bunch of politicians.
Which is not much more than a lapdog of whichever party controls the White House and the two houses of Congress.
It's not that Congress or the presidency have this great respect and they want to pull the court up to their level. In fact, this would indeed drag the court further down into the muck, into the toxic cloud that's enveloped all of our discourse in Washington.
Joe Biden is following through on a campaign promise regarding courts by setting up a commission to study judicial reform. Why?
President Biden said at one point that he's not a fan of court packing, but that the courts are somehow out of whack.
One of the more accepted reforms might be imposing 18-year term limits on the justices.
That would get rid of, for example, these morbid health watches over octogenarian justices or politically timed retirements, arbitrary vacancies as they arise.
I'm less bothered by it because that would be more ideologically neutral, if you will.
There would be a vacancy on the Supreme Court every 2 years, and it would eliminate these vagaries where vacancies depend on chance, like whether a particular justice gets sick and passes away or retires.
But whatever reforms Biden's commission proposes may come to nothing.
These commissions are what politicians use to kick the can down the road. So hopefully 6 months from now, it won't be such a burning issue and they can safely ignore whatever report comes out.
Paul Strand, CBN News.
Ash Wednesday in progress.
Owned by Trump Entertainment Resorts, operated for 30 years before closing in 2014. Atlantic City's mayor, Marty Small, says it's been a goal of his to demolish Trump Plaza since taking office, not because of politics, but because of safety. The city deemed the property a hazard about a year ago.
Oh boy, the city, a new story about the water boys and opening a water plant on the news last night. Then I see another news story where they can't afford to finish the belt line. And they want property owners to help pay for it. What? Why start something that you can't finish? And the study for the water boys, you can't afford to do that. So how can you afford anything? when we got all these sidewalks in the city of Atlanta that need to be fixed, and all these missing wheelchair ramps. I don't understand y'all's thought process. It's about as screwed up as Joe Biden's. I'm waiting on a bus to go and get my first vaccination. I hope my transfer times and everything aren't too long, because I might get out there a little bit late. I don't want to miss it. Oh boy, I'll tell you what, I hate the cold, I hate the rain. Later. I got a feeling I'll be a little late getting there. I guess I should have left at least a half an hour earlier. But it's going to be real close. I hope I won't have no problem. Bus stop over there. No walkway, no ramp. No walkway to get to the crosswalk up here. I mean, it's ridiculous. Come on, DeKalb County, get your heads out your ass. Well, thanks to our public transportation system here in Atlanta, I missed my vaccine appointment because a bunch of idiots decided to take a bunch of buses offline and they haven't put them back. I don't know what the hell they were thinking. The bus I thought I could take ain't running no more. That's the Leon. Somebody's gonna break a leg here. See that guy go? This is ridiculous. I try and go and get my vaccine, and the bus I need to take is not running. So, I just don't understand. I don't know what these people at MARTA are thinking. It's ridiculous.
Like the only thing that's somehow adequate to remedy the injury.
A majority of the Democrats' presidential candidates campaigned to pack the court. Constitutional expert and author of Supreme Disorder, Ilya Shapiro, labels their real motive as taking control of the court.
Court packing has come to mean adding seats to the Supreme Court for partisan reasons, for ideological gain.
To issue opinions that are pleasing to the policy and political agendas of the people who will have packed the court.
The Heritage Foundation's John Malcolm says that would lead to real damage.
Once you start down that road, you have completely eviscerated the independence of the judiciary, and that is a very dangerous development.
Professor Braver also sees the potential harm.
Its distinct danger is that it unleashes a tit-for-tat downward spiral of packing. I pack, you pack, ballooning the court's size so large that its legitimacy pops.
Judicial independence does get destroyed. This may be welcomed by some people on both right and left who think, well, the real problem with the judiciary is they strike down too many laws and regulations. So if we intimidate the judiciary into submission, then the world will be a better place.
But all this could turn the much-respected Supreme Court into just another bunch of politicians.
Which is not much more than a lapdog of whichever party controls the White House and the two houses of Congress.
It's not that Congress or the presidency have this great respect and they want to pull the court up to their level. In fact, this would indeed drag the court further down into the muck, into the toxic cloud that's enveloped all of our discourse in Washington.
Joe Biden is following through on a campaign promise regarding courts by setting up a commission to study judicial reform. Why?
President Biden said at one point that he's not a fan of court packing, but that the courts are somehow out of whack.
One of the more accepted reforms might be imposing 18-year term limits on the justices.
That would get rid of, for example, these morbid health watches over octogenarian justices or politically timed retirements, arbitrary vacancies as they arise.
I'm less bothered by it because that would be more ideologically neutral, if you will.
There would be a vacancy on the Supreme Court every 2 years, and it would eliminate these vagaries where vacancies depend on chance, like whether a particular justice gets sick and passes away or retires.
But whatever reforms Biden's commission proposes may come to nothing.
These commissions are what politicians use to kick the can down the road. So hopefully 6 months from now, it won't be such a burning issue and they can safely ignore whatever report comes out.
Paul Strand, CBN News.
Owned by Trump Entertainment Resorts, operated for 30 years before closing in 2014. Atlantic City's mayor, Marty Small, says it's been a goal of his to demolish Trump Plaza since taking office, not because of politics, but because of safety. The city deemed the property a hazard about a year ago.
Ash Wednesday in progress.
He's got the key. To the car, Dave, the car.
Once in a while. You know, there's actual laws that say a 7-year-old can't operate a saw in a lumber mill. You know why? Because some jackass way back when actually had a 7-year-old operating a saw in a lumber mill. Just imagine the workers complaining back then, boy, what a long day it was, huh, guys? I can't wait to get home and roll my tire down the street with a stick. I mean, sure, paying your workers with baseball cards and bubble gum would increase profits, but it's wrong. Listen, a good boss should know how to make a buck and still be a human being. You see, capitalism, it's just a recipe for economic success. And it doesn't taste quite right until you sprinkle in a little morality. That's why here at Outdoor Man, we provide benefits for...
Put him right here.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. Give me the keys.
Yeah.
You stay right here by the car.
Yes.
And you don't have to go telling everybody my business.
Oh, no, no, no.